We've got sun again, and so now grazing is possible. And this is now the actual grazing. I'm still in the compound. I will now go closer and give you a better look. But even here in the holding area, once we get this sorting facility finished, we do have forage. So let's go over there and have a closer look now. The little ones are lagging a little bit behind, but I can see one there who is pushing them forward so that the herd stays together. Everybody else is already down there, and in the sunlight it looks really nice. So what we have here is so far our best paddock, and it has some roughly 2,500 square meters, and the plan is to let them graze in here, then up there, the next one, which is A16, and then come back to this one, which is A18, and then cross over to that one there, so the one behind the seasonal creek. And today is Friday, so my job is to open our spiral gates and move them around, because now we are in the grazing mode, which is very, very good. And of course we don't let them graze this completely to the ground, because the more plant is left, the better photosynthesis works. This cow here is not very far away from giving birth, so there is definitely something developing. Well, I wouldn't say that this is going to happen in the next week or so, but definitely she's pregnant, because you can see her teats, they are bigger than in the case of the others. But she looks a bit slim. It is definitely a very lovely sight that we finally are able to graze this grass. You can see how tall it is there in the middle part. That always used to be the better part of this place here, but all around it is also improving. But this smaller piece there is definitely the one where the grass is always taller. Let's see if I can give you a much better look. Yeah, now, and even the sun is cooperating, so you can now definitely see how tall it is there. That's just perfect. Well, the things that can happen. Somehow two bulls have been fighting and destroyed a bunch of the strings here. They were not outside, but they were scratching the ground. Here's the evidence, and that is what we were left with. So you can clearly see that the outer part has been put to one side, and you can see the inner part of the string. And of course this will not work for electricity anymore. So now the guys have to fix all that, and it's already late and they are hungry. but there is no other way, because it's Friday and we can't leave it this way.
Allow me to introduce you to our shop. It is located at our website caimito.eu. One of the products is the world-famous Iberian ham. After preparation in the butcher shop, it is kept in a huge amount of salt for a while and then hung from the ceiling in climate-controlled ripening chambers for 3 to 5 years, depending on the size of the ham. People either buy a whole leg, which is between 6 and 10 kilos, or hand-cut slices that are vacuum-sealed in 100-gram pouches. As you can see in many of our videos, our pigs fatten themselves on acorns running around the land. The acorns give the ham a very nutty flavor, and after you took a bite, that flavor stays in the mouth for a while, just like with a good wine.
Someone did ask about this area here in B, which is B1, and I said, yeah, we did not graze here, so that is how it looks like right now. The Pilovnia trees have now suffered from the cold and the frost that happens in early morning, and you can see that in between the old growth we do have new one, and it's quite nice. And the area down there doesn't look the same way, so there is something, but it's not quite impressive like in this area here. So this is a lot taller because it is improving, and of course we did not graze there. So one time we skipped this because of the trees. Now we need to figure out how to protect the trees, and then we can bring in the animals again. Originally we thought we can use this for the horses, because it's much easier to tell a horse don't go there than it is in the case of a cow. So this is something we need to take care of, because this grass needs grazing. Let's have a look at our crop. The 3 plants that we seeded here. As you can see, it has germinated, and it is all over the place, which is very good. Here in the more open parts, depending how hot the sun gets, it might dry out quicker than in the areas where there is more straw around. But then more rain is on the way. Forecast talks about it, and as long as we have mushrooms, it's probably not so bad of a problem. So my worry is a little bit regarding this piece there, where there's definitely not a lot of straw, but it has rained quite a bit. The question is, how deep has it penetrated, and how quickly does it dry out, and how quickly can the plants grow to continue to use the moisture. Because you can see right here that the color tells you where it is already dry. So this goes very quick here in this climate. And that is the challenge. Of course, with more biomass, there is more water retention, and the problem becomes less and less. And by the way, I just read in a German newspaper called Der Spiegel an article about the drought in Spain. So the problem continues and is making headlines even elsewhere in Europe. So also we are now in autumn, they are still talking about an ongoing drought, because there is a lot less rainfall than usual, so they told. So regarding that, it's not so bad how it looks here, but we had a very slow start, which is why the amount of forage that we have available is also less, because it was dry and now it is cold, so that makes the grass grow a lot slower. And we've already been thinking about buying more straw, because this is not enough to actually feed them. So it's not the best situation to be in. And other people probably would now think about selling animals in order to reduce the need for feed. This is not what we intend to do, would not make sense, because it means a setback and I don't want to provoke that. So instead, we just move forward, build more fencing like this one here, and seed. And make sure that we have water in all the different places where we need it. So now we basically take the bull by the horns and move forward, not backwards. This area here is also full of seed, but it takes a while for it to germinate, because the pigs just moved out, and at least 5 days, I think, is needed for new plants to emerge. So see you next week here at this place. This, by the way, happens all the time when we distribute the straw. It comes with some seed, and the taller plants are those that germinated from those seeds that were in the straw. So it's some sort of cereal. Of course, the moment the bovines come, they will eat it, and then there will be no new seed. But the other interesting thing is, we used material to form these berms, and it seems to have a positive effect. So right there is a little bit more growth. So water accumulates in that corner. And the same can also be said over there. Now we had this idea to stop the water, and apparently it has also an effect backwards. And here you can see the positive effect of the pigs uprooting. When they create those holes, in there you find plants, because there is moisture for longer. So pigs are good for the landscape. I am very happy to see that this berm here is also now populated with some plants. That wasn't the case before. But I'm pretty sure that this pond is mostly empty. Yeah, and it is. So the rain was not enough to really fill it up. But then, of course, all this down here, when it gets very, very dry and it's still very sandy, absorbs all the moisture, and the moisture will then move away because it's too sandy, so it cannot hold it, and therefore this only fills when there's really heavy rain, and we have observed it quickly to go away. But that is why we want to plant on here, and we are lagging behind with all that, but it will come eventually. I believe I have not shown you that before. So this berm goes from all the way there completely to the other side. So Angel moved the material that he obtained by digging some holes in there, those depressions where also water accumulates, to here, forming this berm. And as you can see, it goes all the way behind those trees, and then he ran out of material. So this is more or less on contour. Nobody measured this, it's just by the eye, but it looks very good. And this is also an area where we can add some trees or shrubs to it. Of course, all that needs to be scheduled, and one needs to buy the material. Seed and saplings and all that ain't cheap. So we need to see how we do this. A lot of that depends on two things. One is my IT work, which certainly is the bigger chunk. And then, of course, guys, we have a shop. So you can buy hemp and over time some other products. And then that helps to make the investment. So on a more serious note, I intend to also talk to a few other, let's call them suppliers of products that are from here and are related to the Dehesa, and also have these in the shop available. So not necessarily only food items, but also other things. Okay, this is food, but there is someone who sells acorn flour, and some people know what to do with that, or even the acorns themselves. Yeah, they are peeled and come in a glass. But there's also someone who has been making soap out of the fat from the pigs, so that's another interesting product. And maybe we can find some other things that are from here, and that way support also these people a little bit. I need to do some research, and of course I need to program a little bit more, because right now the shop doesn't have a shopping cart where you can put in items and later it calculates the shipping cost and things like that. So right now it's very rudimentary. It was okay for a start, but I definitely need to improve that, and I will. But there's always so much to do, and the day only has 24 hours. But step by step it will all come. This is part of our quick round around Zone A, to bite off a little bit at the top. And tomorrow, Monday, they will go back to CT1, because this week the vet will come and do the mandatory tuberculosis tests. So he's not our vet in that moment, but an inspector. And this takes away 3 days of this week. So not much progress on the other things will be done. But that also means that there is some time to fix a few issues with the fencing here. And then, after some more rain that is in the forecast, they will then be able to come back. I hope that the untouched areas see a little bit more growth because of the sun that we are getting during this week. Here we have our big pond. You can clearly see that it's far from full. So full would mean a meter more. But as it's 3.50 meters deep, there is a lot of water in there. And our intention is to use this body of water during the summer to irrigate in this area here and all around. So if we manage to plant things here, then we have a source to irrigate it. Of course, we will only tap into this at the last moment if we have to. We have this other well that is right next to the outflow of the water reservoir, and we intend to use that for as long and as much as possible. And this is then just in case. Of course, we also need to make an investment and buy another well pump, one that can float. So we need to create a float and hang it off of that. But we can do that. And of course it needs a solar panel, so that this thing also has enough pressure and all that. But all this can be done. But it's also a few thousand euros of investment. So we will see. But at least that is the plan. And in an older video I was talking about a potential wetland. And yes, so we can also do that. So we can bring the water to the highest point, which is somewhere over there, and then have some channels and let it flow back into the pond. So the plants take what they want and the soil, and everything else returns to the pond and the cycle continues. So this is still part of the plan, but we will see how that goes. There are many ideas, and if time and money were endless, then of course a lot would happen right away, and of course the people to do the work. So we need to go at a pace that we can afford. And now that I mentioned people, yes, I would love to welcome volunteers and other people and all that, but in order to welcome people here, we need to have accommodation. And as this is not a farm from before, with farmhouses and barns and all that, we need to build everything. So we don't have any accommodation. We can entertain a visitor, but the person will have to sleep somewhere in a hotel or hostel in one of the villages or towns around. And the nearest one is 25 kilometers away. That would be in Villanueva de Córdoba. So that's not an ideal situation. And it is in line with the fact that people who work here or who work on neighboring lands, they come and go, they visit, and they live in the village. So it's always a commute. Yeah, for example, Angel comes from Pozo Blanco, and he has to drive 1 hour to here and an hour back. So there is no way to say, "Hi, can you help out with something in the afternoon?" It makes no sense. And Juan lives a little bit closer. His commute is just 20 minutes. He comes from Cardeña. And it would be similar for everybody else. So that is part of the way it is here, because all this, the Dehesa, is more or less a ranching area. But then in the past, people used to live here. So we do have, let me show this first, we do have this one there, behind the pickup. Where's my finger? There. So there, that is called a cortijo, and the family lived there. This other building is to store straw or hay, things like that. And then what is to the right, the previous owner tried to use this as a pig shelter, but it never got approved, which is why we have no permission to breed our own pigs. We need to build a substitute that is now in line with current legal standards for quarantine. And another family lived in this old house there. It's a ruin now because everything is missing, and the current owner, who had that problem with the tenant, he grew up there. So that was his childhood home. And then there are other houses like this, scattered around the landscape, and some of them were also used as shelter for the herders. But that's a thing of the past, and nobody wants to do this anymore, to spend 2 weeks somewhere in the countryside living in one of these cortijos in order to move cattle and pigs and all that. So they prefer to live in the city and come to work like everybody else in modern times. So the concept of a farm around here is not really existent. That's more something in the north of Spain or elsewhere. So what we try to do is a novelty. And now during the day, despite the fact that we had some frost this morning around 8:30, it is warm. So I'm wearing a sweater, but in the sun I'm almost at the point of sweating. So that should also help the growth of the plants, because it is much warmer to them in the sunlight than it is somewhere in the shade. But even in the shade it does not feel really cold, but it's not t-shirt weather either. But if you have to perform some job in the sun, then definitely you want to be in just a t-shirt. because the sun is very powerful around here. You might remember from previous videos that there used to be a fence. A fence between those two posts there to the right until where the fence starts, and also here to the left, and going all the way to the other side, which is behind those boulders. That's a legal problem, and we have a lawyer working on that. That fence that used to be here has been there for a long time. The previous owner did not build it. The owner before him also did not build it, as we were told. So this fence has been there this way, as it was, for more than 30 years. And a little while back, a few people came from the water district, and they removed it and basically left our piece of land open and joined with the land of the neighbor there to the other side. They don't care about animals getting mixed up or that animals invade and eat what you have been working for. That is not of their concern. And of course, it is unjust to punish someone who has not done anything. We bought this land as is, with all the fencing as is. What we added is our own stuff, like those panels there, and of course our internal fencing. Thankfully, we have this internal fencing in place, and it is a hot wire, and it makes sure that the bovines of our neighbor will not invade our piece and eat away the grass that we have been caring for. But now we also have to make sure that we have a pig-safe fence down here, so that our neighbor, thankfully we have a good relationship, can run pigs and let them eat acorns, because without, they would simply pass through here, because they don't know this system, and would eat our acorns, and also create a lot of damage in all the places where we have planted something. Right now, we don't have planted a lot in our zone A except A7, and that is secure. But of course, we don't want this. This is not the idea. Plus, from the veterinarian's perspective, you cannot accept foreign animals on your farm because they will contaminate. There's this problem with all kinds of illnesses, and tuberculosis is one of them. And this is a huge problem here in this area. So the animals you see walking there, they are not supposed to come to our place. And neither should ours go to theirs. So we have our lawyer working on this. And we have also not been notified the correct way, because the trouble started in 2018, shortly after we bought this land. And we had no idea that there is a legal process against this fence. They had more than 30 years to go and knock a door and say, hey, there is something that is not right. Let me tell you what wasn't right. One of the things that wasn't right was the wire mesh. The wire mesh went all the way into the water to prevent animals from passing. So now there is a rule that says you have to have something that cannot be blocked by debris. So it has to be a metal sheet that can be lifted by the water. And this could have been easily installed. They also said this to another neighbor, which is way over there, somewhere there. And this person also got a letter, as we were told, to fix that problem. But that wasn't enough. The other problem is, you see that fence post? That fence post there is in the wrong place. Back then, more than 35 years ago, I guess it's 35 years, they built a fence. And they built a fence right there at the edge. And that is not right, because you're supposed to stay away 5 meters. not from the center of this creek, but instead from the high water mark. Of course, the question is, where is the high water mark in an outflow of a water reservoir? If they open a gate and let the water out, of course the high water mark will be a lot higher. Usually, you can see the high water mark. This is how it is all year long, because this is what seeps out below the dam. But if they open it up, well, then the high water mark is somewhere else. So it's pretty hard to tell. Nobody was interested to talk about this when they were here. They were just interested in making a damage, in removing the fence. So they removed it, and now we have to see how to fix this. Fixing means either to lose access to this body of water and put the fence somewhere back there. That post here, the wooden one where the fencing material lies on the ground, is in the wrong place, because according to them it has to be at least where the tree is in order to maintain this 5-meter distance, because to them the high water mark is that here, and right now the high water is somewhere down there, so it's this problem. But in any case, they don't like this fence post there. I was smart when they were here and told them this is an electric fence, and if you cut anything here, a lot of other damage will happen, and then you will be responsible. So don't touch it, we will take care of this ourselves. And because of that, we put in those metal fence posts, so that we can say, yeah, we're working on this, but there are other more pressing matters. This is Spain, you have to be street smart. So now the issue is, where do we put the fence? So there to the left, this is our neighbor. So we would have to buy a piece of the neighbor's land, so that we can comply with this and maintain access to this body of water. Or we will lose it. So this is the legal issue that our lawyer has to work on, and also we have to talk to the owner of this land. The problem is, it's an absent landowner, they live somewhere else in Spain, and they don't like to talk to people. So I will have to find a way to actually speak to the legal owners, and it's a family and there are many owners, and our lawyer knows them from previous dealings, and he said they are very difficult to talk to, because they all have different opinions and nothing happens if they cannot agree on something. So that's a challenge. And the main problem is that the authority came and removed the fence without any concern for what happens. And what they did is deemed illegal, because they have not properly notified, and they are also punishing someone for something that that person has not done, because we have not installed any fencing that they removed. We installed something on our land, but not here in this public waterway. We did not touch this. Everything that was there when we bought the land. So this will not stand like it is. But of course it's a legal process, and legal processes in Spain take a long time. What the lawyer, for example, shared, he has another case, and it does not move because the judge isn't there. The judge is working from home because of COVID. There is no COVID in Spain anymore, but they just do it. So things are stuck because from home he doesn't work as quickly as in the office. So he might actually not be working at all. And of course, there's not much you can do. So your legal case might get stuck for years because of things like that. So in the end, people take matters in their own hand, which is very bad. This should not be the case in a country that is part of the European Union. You would expect this from elsewhere, but not here. So it's very sad. But we will get this solved somehow, and for the time being I won't spend any effort on this. The authorities have to find the letters that supposedly they sent us and present them. So now there will be Christmas and holiday and all that, so I don't expect anything to happen before somewhere February. And until then we will take care of our own things that are more important. So we take care of our plants and animals and not worry about this fencing. Up there is a lot of work, and that is more important than this nonsense. And of course our gate, this is the main gate, is also affected by this 5-meter rule, depending on how it gets interpreted. So they also wanted to remove that, but I persuaded them not to, because their initial suggestion was to remove the gate and then make a new gate somewhere here. But of course they won't do it, so they leave the whole place open. And that would have had some serious consequences. So they understood this, because I threatened them with some legal action because of the damage they are going to make. And I was successful. The gate is still there. So that is the thing that I mentioned and said I first need to have a conversation with our lawyer. Now I had, and I can share a little bit. So take notice. These things can happen. And the fact that something has been the way for a lot of time does not mean it will stand. And on a side note, we had been caring for this place here, and the growth was very nice because of our strict management to keep the animals out for a certain period of time. But now that this is open, the animals from over there, they come here every day and they nibble on everything that has grown a little bit. So now this suffers from continuous grazing, the thing that you should not do. It's a little bit of a pity, but we can't do anything about this, and of course it's also a very small area. But it's very interesting to note what happens. So they prefer this place because there is fresh green grass, while over there, in between all the outgrowths, there's very little new forage. And this is the other management style. So quite interesting.